Let's talk transfers now then, shall we, Gab? Starting off with Manchester United. We know they're interested in Jadon Sancho. Reports over the weekend, though, suggesting that they need to get rid of Paul Pogba first.
Yeah, I don't really buy that. I don't see those two things as related. Why they should be related. Basically, if you look at Manchester United's numbers over the last few years, if you look at certainly last season, if you look at their spending, if you look at the way that they tried to work on their wage bill, I don't see why all of a sudden it becomes an imperative to sell Pogba so that you can bring in Jadon Sancho. Bear in mind, we don't quite know what the transfer market's going to look like, what the numbers are going to look like, how much money it's going to effectively take to bring in Jadon Sancho. I think if you're United, there are certain things you want to do, but I think they're going to be just as effective. If you can find a home for Alexis Sanchez and Chris Smalling, for example, both of whom are on loan, both of whose loans expire. Roma would like to keep Smalling, Inter with Alexis a little bit less so. But for example, those two guys together, you look at their wages and, that's substantially more, for example, than what Paul Pogba earns. Plus you'll get some money back, presumably, for Smalling. So, you put those things together, I think it's a good tale, and I think maybe there's some people at United who wouldn't mind selling Pogba if they get a big enough fee. But the reality is the two things can't be contingent on each other. And I'm also not sure that Juventus are in a position where they can just come up with 100 million in cash and say, oh, give us Paul Pogba.
Solskjaer's quote, obviously, about holes and a-holes made a lot of headlines over the last few days. People suggesting it was Lukaku, Alexis Sanchez and Paul Pogba. Are they proactively looking to get rid of the Frenchman, Gab?
I don't believe so. No, I don't believe he was referring to Paul Pogba. And again, look, you've heard from me, you've heard from Jules, we've said it time and again. I think the people who hate Pogba the most are, a couple ex-pros in the media, frankly. We've really not had any indication. And look, maybe they're all lying to us, but when you speak to people at United, when you speak to players at United, when you speak to former players at United, nobody goes and has a go at Paul Pogba and blames Pogba for being that term you used before, that Solskjaer used before. So I don't quite know where this is coming from. Now, obviously, those are three big earners. Lukaku, they managed to shift. Alexis, I think, is going to be very difficult. And by the way, we're talking big numbers. Alexis makes nearly twice as much as Paul Pogba does. Surely that has to impact United's wage bill more than Pogba. But I think just even looking at numbers, if you look at the number of central midfielders United have, even if they do shift Pogba, they're going to have to bring somebody in, and it's going to necessarily be somebody, I think, who can start.
Thanks so much for watching ESPN on YouTube. And for more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for premium content and live streaming, subscribe to ESPN Plus.